Finding problems? That's easy. They exist in every community. I'm Terry Springs, your host. We're looking deeper, and we are talking solutions, finding out how we all can make a difference. Today on Talking Solutions, very excited to welcome Dan Williams, Chief Operating Officer, or COO, from 3 Square Food Bank. Dan, thanks so much for coming in.
Terry, thanks for having me.
I got to meet you for the first time over at Glazier's Food Marketplace when we did the kickoff of the food drive for the month of May with our friends from the Jersey Boys. I loved the things that you and I talked about, and I knew that I had to get you in here so that we could share it with everyone here on Talking Solutions. There's some exciting things about 3 Square. Summer is here. Is this the busiest time of the year for 3 Square?
Definitely one of the busiest. Holidays are always busy for us because the awareness of hunger really is amplified during the holidays. That's really where we receive most of our food drives. But if you look at the magnitude of hunger, it's actually worse in the summer because of kids being out of school.
That's what I'm figuring. I don't know if everyone is aware, first of all, size of the Clark County School District, which to my knowledge is the 5th largest in the entire country.
Yes, absolutely.
Here we have this massive amount of kids in school. The numbers that I heard most recently, is it 58%
of all kids in CCSD schools are on free or reduced lunch. That's about 182,000 kids every day.
That is very important. I'm a total nutrition nut, and I also understand if your nutrition and your food intake is not right, you're going to have a bunch of kids that are very hungry. It makes it difficult for them to focus, concentrate, and learn.
Yeah.
It's amazing what parts of the puzzle nutrition plays and food plays.
Your body has to operate, and it operates on food. That's the fuel. So you have to feed it in the morning, and if you don't have proper nutrition, everything else is just a moot point. It's not going to happen.
So we've got all these kids in the Clark County schools who are, during the school year, able to supplement what they're not getting enough of at home for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, I mean, Monday through Friday, they have access to food. Right? There's subjectiveness on what that value is of that food or what they're consuming. That's not our arena to criticize, but they have food. And then when you look at the weekend, what are they doing on the weekend? And this is where our Backpack for Kids program really makes a difference because we're targeting the most at-risk kids in 270 of the Clark County schools. And we work with those schools and those administrators to get about 5 pounds of shelf-stable food that they can take home with them. It's called the Backpack program. We put it in a white bag, and then the administrators at the school discreetly put it into their cubbies on Friday. So we're going to put out probably 225,000 of those bags in 35 weeks. So we feel like that 35 weeks, we're in pretty good shape. You know, I mean, it's still a lot of kids that need a lot of food, but we're trying to meet the need the best we can. But when you get into summer, this is where we have a very tough time in southern Nevada. So when you look at congregate meal sites that these kids have to go to, we're probably one of the worst states in the nation in participation. And it's not good anywhere, but when you look at 180,000 kids getting subsidized for food in 35 weeks, and then in the summer, it's probably less than 20,000 kids. So where are these kids eating, and what are they eating? That's very concerning. So summer food service for us is very important to get the word out. Hunger is all about awareness. That's what it is. There's plenty of food in this country. We overgrow food by 40%. That means we could feed 120 million people in this country, more than our population. We could feed Germany and have leftovers.
I was at a hair salon last week, and they were saying, you know, it's really nice that we share our food with people overseas, like kids in Africa and different needy places, and we send help. But his concern, the person I was talking to, was, but we've got to take care of the kids at home. It sounds to me like what you're saying, and by the way, we're talking with Dan Williams, the COO of 3 Square Food Bank today on Talking Solutions. What you're saying is the food is there, but we need to raise the awareness. Distribution channels, I would imagine, have to be maximized to make that work.
You're right on. You could work for us. Yeah, we help everybody because there's plenty of food. So there is a extreme lack of awareness in this country when it comes to hunger. We're a country of excess. We have 5% of the world's population, but consume most of the world's goods. We produce the most food in the world, and we export it. There's still plenty of food in this country. Obviously, we're going to export it to make money so we can bring revenue into the country. But when you look at the billions of pounds that are wasted in agriculture, it's not as bad because the stuff actually gets plowed back into the earth. It's not going into a landfill. but you're spending a lot of water resources and a lot of labor and fuel to grow that food, only never to make it to market. And then you're manufacturing 27 billion pounds of manufactured food. Now, most of that stuff is getting turned into biofuels and it's feeding livestock. But where the big rub comes in, and this is where I'm pretty passionate, is the retail sector. I spent 33 years here in Vegas in the retail sector. I was born and raised here. I started going to work when I was 17 in the grocery business. And when I was 50, I left. I had to do something more significant, I felt, with my life. But when you look at all the food in the retail sector that goes to a landfill, that's where the big rub is. The numbers are very easy. There's 22 billion pounds lost in the retail sector into landfills every single year. There's 49 million people that are food insecure in the country, needing about 6.5 billion pounds of food. That's the meal gap right now in terms of poundage in the country. So do the math. 22 billion lost to a landfill, 6.5 billion to solve hunger. We don't have the awareness, and then we don't have the connectivity or the logistics. Now, here it's a little different. We're fortunate to have a fantastic community that has rallied around hunger. We're only 7 years old, 3 Square is. But for decades, many of our agency partners have been on the front line and are on the front line today fighting hunger. But the term food insecurity is only 5 years old. It was basically brought out of Map the Meal Gap, which is only a 5-year-old study. So when you look at hunger in this valley, we didn't talk about it really heavily until about 7 years ago when 3 Square started, and we said, hunger is a huge issue, my friends. Let's get it together. And guess what? This community has been rallying for 7 years. Our agency partners are able to distribute more food because of this community. The people, the businesses, the corporations, they come together. So you're right on. It is an awareness issue. It's a solvable problem.
Speaking of awareness, I would imagine we all know what this term, food insecurity, actually means. Quite simply, the person who is food insecure, be they children, adults, whatever, they just don't know where their next meal is coming from.
They don't have regular access to food. We know what happened in 2008 with the mortgage crisis. That was really when we saw situational poverty. This is when mom and dad, they were making it okay, and one of them or both of them lost their job and they had to go on unemployment. Or maybe they got a job and they became underemployed. The bottom line is wages didn't keep up with what the need was. So you had situational poverty for one of the very first times in Las Vegas. I mean, 2003, 2004, everything's wonderful, right? Mm-hmm. 2,500 people moving to town every month, construction, everything is great. We didn't talk about hunger. So here you are still reeling from the effects of that event. That happened to people. They didn't make that. Something happened and they were the victims of that. So now we look at 305,000 individuals every month that are food insecure in Southern Nevada. Different levels, certainly there's moderate food insecurity where, you're going to skip a meal or, you don't have the money to necessarily purchase all the groceries you want. Then there's a higher level of food insecurity where you're trying to stretch meals. Your mom and dad, you're buying a lot of pastas and belly fillers to try to get your kids fed. You might be skipping meals so your kids can eat. You might be watering down foods. And then there's extreme food insecurity where you just flat out don't have any money. You don't know where your next meal is coming from. You are a senior who needs to buy your medicine instead of buying groceries. Many seniors are too proud to come forward, so they're in their house, and there's a whole population of seniors out there that people don't know about. They're food insecure and they're struggling. So there's different levels, but at the end of the day, when we look at hunger, it has a health effect on people because you're not going to consume the right foods, or you're just not consuming enough food. And what happens is, unlike third world countries where they die every day, 14 children die every minute in third world countries of hunger. That doesn't happen in the United States. What we die here of is diabetes, hypertension, high blood pressure, obesity. Those are all the symptoms of being food insecure.
I have so many ways I can get up on my soapbox about all of this because I get the opportunity with Talking Solutions every week to talk about a lot of different topics. And we just did a long discussion on mental health awareness because May was Mental Health Awareness Month. And food and nutrition can play into your mental health, your medical health. It has so much to do with you functioning 100% as a person.
It is. There's so much food in this country. Why why would we have anyone that lacks access to it? And you're right. There's a feeling of hopelessness when you aren't able to consume food or consume the same food as your peers. You become a different class in your mind and you get depressed and there's a lack of hope. And it leads to people making bad decisions.
This is a fascinating topic. Dan Williams, COO from 3 Square, the food bank here in Clark County and beyond. I got educated a few months back about the fact that 3 Square actually takes care of more than just this massive place we live in called Clark County, that there are other counties also that are covered by your services. When we talk about 3 Square and awareness and the need, you spent 33 years in the grocery business. You know the supply side of it. So now that you're in the position for 3 Square, how long have you been in this job?
I still go by months, so I'm like 30 months. So I'm still a baby, right, in the food banking world. But this October will be 3 years. Yeah, when you look at the retail sector, I worked in there. I knew how much food was thrown out. But we did a really good job of rescuing it. Our company, we did the right thing. You know, it's actually lucrative for a business to donate their food.
Well, sure, they'd get a tax write-off, right?
They get a tax break on it, right? So they take dollars or cents per pound, and not only can they get a tax break, they're going to save money by not using trash services or haul away services or dump fees that can be $95 or $100 a ton. So why spend all this money in trash fees? Save it for your company, right? For your stockholders to lower prices, whatever you want to do with it. But companies overspend on trash fees when they don't have to. There are 200 food banks in the United States that are affiliated with Feeding America. We're one of 2 in Nevada. You mentioned, yes, we have 3 other counties we serve, Nye, Esmeralda, and Lincoln. 98% of all our activity is right here in Clark County. I mean, this is where all the folks are. And Clark County is 8,200 square miles, but frankly, it's about 400 square miles is what we're serving because that's where about 76% of the state lives.
Density right under our feet.
The fortunate thing about 3 Square is we can do this. You've seen 3 Square grown from 0 meals. We're at about 33 million meals a year that we're putting out. The meal gap in our service area is only 45 million meals. So we're less than 12 million meals away from having this thing solved. We're on pace to do this. We need some more awareness, right? So we need to get more people involved like yourself. This is beautiful what you're doing for us because this is going to get the word out. When people know of a problem, there's a lot of smart people out there to go support it and get it fixed. So we just need some more folks in on this. We're making great strides. Again, the community is so gracious. It's one of the best. I've only lived here, so I can easily say this is the best city in the world, but a lot of people come here, a lot of visitors come here, and they get involved as well. We need some more locals to get out there. We need some more businesses, but when it comes to that retail sector, that's where the food is.
It's really neat that you know it so well after having been in the grocery industry for 33 years. So you come into the COO position with 3 Square and you go, okay, I see the numbers. I know how much there actually is out there that we can get to. And you understand the way to talk to them in a business sense that actually makes it happen.
Yes. Again, they have a lack of awareness as well. So when you go to these stores, and an average grocery store might have 85 or 100 people, there might only be a couple people that really know the deal. That really has to come from the higher ups, the corporate and the district management, and those folks, and they all have programs, but is it as important to them as selling groceries? The process is the same whether you throw it in the dumpster or not. You're basically going through it and you're getting all the close-coded product or the out-of-date product, which is perfectly fine. This country has another issue with code dating. There's only one food in this country that's regulated by the government, and it's baby food, and for a good reason. But when you look at a packaged salad or a bread or a piece of meat in the meat case, there's a date on it.
It's a best by date or a sell by date.
By. There's probably 50 variations out there, but the food is just fine. If you go to a grocery store, how dare that grocery store not have 2 layers high of peaches or apples or oranges, and they all better look really good, or you're not going to buy anything, right?
That's how people get started with organics. They have to relax their expectation of what their perfect apple or tomato.
We call it cosmetically challenged, right? That little nick on the orange or apple, still the apple is good, right? It's 99.7% of that apple is wholesome and nutritious.
Yes.
You know?
Organics can be quite beautiful on their own. grown. But when you realize that if you're dealing with an organic product, which I like to do that whenever possible, I think anybody pretty much would, you've got additional nutrition on top of it. There are so many pluses and so many good positive factors about that. But yes, we do expect, and I've done the grocery openings years ago because I've been in town. Like you said, you were born and raised here.
Right.
I have only been here 23 years, but this is home. I love this city so much and the people in it. I've done over the years different grocery store grand openings. I mean, Lucky Store's been gone for a while.
I worked for Lucky's.
Okay,
for many years.
I did the grand opening of the one, probably Jones in the 95.
And in the 95.
Yeah, and I was there the first day, and you're right, the produce looks so perfect.
Has to.
They had a marching band outside, and we're celebrating all this food. And it did look perfect. And yes, produce departments are so important. It's one of the things that I think is really interesting. I believe that there's a lot of people out there that think that what 3 Square Food Bank provides for people who are food insecure, who are needing your services, they're going to get canned goods and maybe some peanut butter and spaghetti. There's more to it than that, isn't there?
I'm actually glad you brought that up. When you look at rescue food, we call it food rescue. So when we go to these grocery stores, and we have 185 retail partners that we pick up from. Most of the big grocery stores we pick up 4 times a week. So we're there 16, 18 times a month. When you look at rescue, we're actually the #1 food bank in the nation year over year rescue. And again, it's because of the awareness factor we're putting into it. 2 years ago, we rescued less than 7 million pounds of food from the grocery stores. This year, we'll be very close to 14 million. So we've doubled that. But we still think there's 7 to 9 million pounds every year left to go to a landfill. So we got to fix that. Again, awareness. When you look at food rescue, 65% of everything we rescue is fresh produce. Again, it's not going to be vibrant and beautiful and all the same size, and there's going to be some nicks on it. But when a person is food insecure and they're not eating anything, that orange that has a little nick on it or that apple that has a ding in it, it tastes good and it is good for you. But when you look at meeting the needs of the community, and we mentioned 45 million meals is the need every year, and we're at 33, you simply would say to yourself, well, if we could go rescue the extra 7 or 8 or 9 million, we're almost there. 11 million meals, each meal is 1.2 pounds. So you have to times 11 times 1.2, you're into the 13 million-ish range. That's how much pounds you need. We could simply procure that produce from California, Washington, Idaho, Arizona. That food is available to us today. Yes, there is a drought in California, but every day we are offered 10 semi-trailers of extra produce in California. And that is the way to solve the meal gap. And that's what actually we've been doing. Last year, we procured or purchased 9 million pounds of fresh produce. That is above and beyond what we rescued from the grocery store. This year, we're budgeted to bring in 12 million pounds. That is all beautiful, fresh produce. Again, if you get a bin of oranges with 850 pounds, there might be 20 pounds of oranges that maybe we don't want to serve. But we have this volunteer base that probably is one of the best in the nation. When you talk about this community rallying, we'll probably exceed 20,000 unique individuals this year that come to 3 Square and pack groceries or go through these bins of oranges and apples and potatoes and onions. They go through them to make sure the best quality is there, and they put them in individual units of service or bags, 3 to 5 pounds. We have people that go through these. So we're able to offer this very dignified experience at a mobile grocery giveaway or a pantry from one of our agency partners. It's a very streamlined process. It's not 50 people around a bin of oranges trying to grab oranges. We have a very great process, probably one of the best in the nation. We want to bring in fresh produce. We want to bring in even more, but it does cost money. That's really the gap. So when you say, let's just purchase 13 million pounds of produce, it's going to cost you about $2 million to do that. But we could do that. We have the infrastructure to support that. We have the agency partners that can do it, but they have to have a guarantee the food's coming. You know, we can't have 250 food insecure folks line up at an agency partner and say, we ran out of food, sorry. We've got to have that guarantee stream coming, and this is where the community can rally around us.
Understand that 3 Square is the food bank. This is the big provider.
Or the distribution center.
Exactly.
For all the agency, nonprofits and faith-based groups in Southern Nevada that serve food to, currently the stats are 137,000 unique individuals every month.
Three Square is the parent that has all the food products and all these other groups that we're talking about, a lot of whom I see and talk to
Catholic
about.
Charities, Salvation Army.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Lutheran Social Services,
Absolutely.
HelpLink of Southern Nevada. They're all, and I would imagine you've got dozens and dozens of different food pantries.
310.
That's more than dozens and dozens. A lot of them. Basically, they come to you and you are able to provide to them at an incredible cost. Was I hearing 9 cents a pound?
The food bank world, Feeding America infrastructure, the going rate for donated food is 19 cents a pound. Most food banks charge that. We don't do that. The only thing that we will ask for what's called a shared maintenance fee for, and again, it's only 9 cents a pound, that's our cap, is frozen goods and dry groceries. So donated frozen and donated dry groceries, 9 cents a pound. Everything else is free. It was a conscious decision because we opened in late 2007 and the economy was horrible. And there are food banks in the nation that rely on that 19 cents a pound. They might do 50 million pounds. So $10 million is coming to them to keep that food flowing. We don't have that. Last year, our budget was about $14 million and less than $240,000 was our shared maintenance fee. So when you really look at it, it's probably less than a penny a pound is our average cost, or the agencies, what they bear. So they bear that cost of less than 1 penny a pound. So we're giving it out, and it takes a lot of money to buy that stuff. But the fortunate thing is we're close enough to California. Again, we're not growing crops here. Not a lot of food being grown in the middle of the desert.
Not a lot. I want to do some on my back patio, but I haven't gotten to that
that's
yet.
You're not gonna have a lot of food insecure people at your house.
No.
Then you have two other major factors because we're in the middle of the desert. Number one is the manufacturing. We don't enjoy manufacturing here. I mean, Ocean Spray has a plant here, a toilet paper plant. It's not significant. So manufacturers don't come here. They're in California. They're in Arizona. They're somewhere else. But one of the biggest hurdles that we have to come over is the fact there aren't distribution centers of food here. So when you look at Walmart, Kroger, Safeway, and Albertsons, all their distribution centers, whether it's dry, frozen, or fresh, are in other states. That means we are literally in the middle of a desert and we are reliant on other states and logistics to bring food to our warehouses. So we've got to cultivate those business relationships, and certainly we enjoy the Feeding America affiliated relationships, which is that corporate piece. But we go to California, we go to Washington, we go to Arizona. I've been on the border of Mexico making deals to try to get produce in here, and that's how you're going to end hunger, is you're going to rely on the relationships that you form to get food.
It's the business part of it. In fact, I had one person who I came across a few months back who kind of had a chip on his shoulder about Three Square. And he says, it's too much like a business. I'm like, no, that is to Three Square's benefit.
Absolutely.
You have to talk the language of the people who have what you need.
Listen, we're a nonprofit. That's our tax status. That's what that is. You better operate like a business, because if you operate with the premise that everything's going to be great because people are going to give us money, we hope that happens, but
Sure.
That's not a strategy. The strategy is put in good business practices, reduce costs as much as you can, become an efficient operation. Logistics, efficient. Warehousing, efficient. Business practices, immense.
It's a big part of it. You have to speak the language. Understanding what they experience. I love the idea of heightening the awareness even more, coming around and salvaging stuff that would otherwise be wasted and discarded. And I can't imagine that anybody wouldn't jump right up and say, we want this for so many reasons. There are so many benefits involved, including at the end of the day, feeling that A, you help the environment being really green and not wasteful, and you also help feed more people. Where is the downside here?
There is no downside. It's really priceless. It's hard to put a price tag on that. You can come up with data and numbers that talk about how much food is wasted, but you can't follow the data on how much resources it took to grow the food, move the food, and now destroy the food in a landfill. That's just not a good business practice, right? And then you have all these folks that we could figure out how to get the food to. Here, we've got the solution. We've got trucks trucks. We've got agency partners. We need a little bit more food. That's our problem here. There's some bigger challenges as far as the country goes, when you talk about these rural counties and trying to get food to a city of 10,000, smaller cities. And there's some challenges out there because not every food bank is as blessed as us to have the community rallying around them, right? We are very confident what we're doing here. We already know that it's having national implications. So Feeding America looks to us for best practices. There's 200 food banks in the nation. We just had 58 of them out in April over a 4-day period to kind of see what we're doing and then talk about best practices and how to do that.
You like what you're hearing? 3 Square getting national attention. They are such a great food bank. But did you know they were not originally designed to be a food bank at all? Dan's going to share the story coming up next on Talking Solutions.